Well, howdy everybody, and welcome to a brand new channel that I'm starting on today. And the name of my channel is going to be Old Folks and What We Know. And this is going to be a lesson about life. I'm 71 years old, so I've been here a long time. But the neat thing is, I got talking to my mother. She is going to be 100-year-old next week. Here it is, December the 7th, and I remember what happened December the 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. I don't know, but I had an uncle that was on a ship that went down. But what we going to be doing in this channel, this is a brand new channel, this is the first video. So, y'all bear with me, and then leave a comment down below what you'd like to talk about or hear about. I would appreciate it. But anyway, I'm 71 years old. I was born in 1954. I growed up in what I consider the best times of life. But I've had many ups and downs in my life, as most everybody else does. Life is going to give you ups and downs. Now, I wrote out on a piece of paper some of the things that I need to think about, or questions I would ask myself. The first question is, I got here, what advice would you give your younger self? Well, I guess if I could say I would give my younger self some advice, number one would go for whatever it is you dreaming for or you want. Go for it. Don't hold back and say, well, I can't afford it or I can't achieve that, because life will throw you whichever way you think. So your mind is your strongest muscle in your whole body. If you want to go after something and do it, the best thing is do it. Now, you gonna fail sometimes? Yes. Failure is a part of living. Failure is the biggest part of success. And I'm gonna tell you stories about my success and my failures. My first adventure that really hurt me here was a failure, until the day that I went and talked to somebody, and I'll tell you about it, and then it became a huge success. And anyway, the first advice I would give my younger self was advice that don't be afraid of what other people think. Don't matter what they think. Let them think what they want to think. But that was a fear back in the 70s growing up. What is other people going to think about you? It didn't matter. You driving an old car or something. I had a 1955 Ford when I was 16 years old that my daddy had actually restored. It looked like a brand new car when I got it. It had big shiny chrome hubcaps and all the chrome green and white. And it was a beautiful car, and I was proud of it. And when I was 16, I drove that thing. I was in junior high, I think, or high school, but I drove that thing down there to the school and parked it in the parking lot where all the rest of my friends had all these new GTOs, Corvettes, and Chevelles, and Camaros, and stuff like that, and they laughed at it. I'm like, well, doggone it, I don't care, and I didn't care. I loved that car. That was my mama's car. She bought it brand new, and my daddy kept it. And after he bought her a new car, he put it up in he owned a garage. And that's another thing I'm going to tell you about, the garage. We had a shop here in a little town down in South Georgia. And oh, by the way, you can call me DJ. My name's Danny Jones, but everybody calls me DJ, so that's what my name is, DJ. But what we're going to be talking about is old folks and what we know. And I'm not just going to do a video about me telling you what I know. I'm going to go out, and I got a lot of friends of mine. I'm 71. I've got some friends that's 80, 90, 100-year-old plus. And we're going to try to get an interview with them and tell them how, let them tell you what they think about life. Life is a journey. that you start out as a baby and you're going to ride it all the way up until the day you die. And that day will come one day. I can guarantee it. The day you was born done happened. It's in the past. So, anyway, so on this paper, what would I give my younger self advice on? Like I said, the first thing is I would care less more about what people thought or say or negative comments. And my CPA, when I got to be about maybe 28 or 30, I owned a trucking company. And we're going to go through that too. That was one of my failures, but it turned out to be my biggest success. But my CPA, he was an older man, a great man, and he's done passed away. I sure do miss him, but he gave me some advice. He said, all right, while you doing this trucking, then you need to put some money aside for yourself later. And I'm like, well, I don't need money later, I need money now. And he said, no, he said, you'll thank me for this. He said, you open up I think it was a Roth IRA or an IRA, and he said, you start off and you put money in that thing every year. You putting the minimum back then, I think we could put up to $3,000 a year in it. So he kept up with all my taxes and did all my legal tax work, and he was in an office right next door to a great lawyer, and then I got talking to the lawyer and become a friend with him, and anyway, so I did what he said, and I was thinking, well, I'm just throwing $3,000 a year out the window. Well, here I am, 71 years old, and that little nest egg that I built up over the year, it's done very well just with that. And a lot of people ain't got $3,000 a year to put in something like that. And I was fortunate enough to be making that kind of money. But, you know, if you start out when you young and put whatever you can afford, cut out $10 a week out of your check or $100 a month and put it in there, the interest and compound back then it was like up to 8, 9 to 10%, and but yeah, I was. People thought I was different because I was what they call an optomeneer. Optomeneer, my cousin called me that, and the first time he called me that, I thought it was an ugly word. He said, "You just a darned old optomeneer." He said, "You're going out here and creating business." Because when I was 15 years old, I worked for Texaco gas station and stayed with my grandma during the summer. And the Texaco man hired me for one thing, and he had 2 more people that was grown in their 30s and 20s, and I'm 15 years old. But the one thing he hired me for, we washed the Georgia Highway Express semi-trucks, and somebody had to go drive the semi-truck down to the gas station, and we'd steam clean it. Well, them 2 boys didn't know how to drive a semi, and being I growed up with my daddy in a garage, we had big wrecker trucks, and we'd have to go pull semi-trucks off the road and all that, and my daddy learned me when I was 12 years old, I could drive one and shift gears. So, there you go. And I had skills with my hands. As you see behind me, I got keyboard set up. On the other side of the room, I got guitars. I'm also a self-taught musician that's got really good payoff for doing music work. But anyway, success and failure, it's going to come. But your failures will make you stronger if you don't give up. Now, let me give you an example of my first biggest failure. And that was when I opened up, and I started out at a young age. My daddy run the garage, and I worked for him for probably 10 or 12 years. I did all the mechanic work. I rebuilt engines, carburetors, brakes, transmissions, rear ends on cars, semi-trucks, and concrete trucks, because we kept up the concrete company here in Cordell. We kept all their equipment up. They had strange things happen. They fell through septic tanks. We'd have to go pull them out of a septic tank. Or they'd turn a truck over, and we'd have to go get that truck and take the drum off it and put it on a trailer and bring it back to the garage and take it out back and dump that concrete out before it hardened up in that drum. If it didn't, they would have to buy a new truck. So we'd done that. And that's actually how we built the platform out back of our shop. We dumped the concrete, and then we'd come in there and level it. And they sent men down there to help us level it. Then we'd take the drum over there and wash it out and clean it out and straighten it out, fix the truck, put the drum back on the truck, and they'd be rolling again in a week. And we have rebuilt motors overnight for people that had emergency calls. I mean, the motor blowed up, throw the rod, it didn't bust the block, we throw some new pistons in it and send them on the way. And I'm talking about famous people. We've had, and I was pretty much a baby when this happened, but my dad went out and brought Hank Williams Sr. in. Not Junior, but Hank Williams Sr. and worked on his car off the road. Mel Tillis. We went out and got his car and brought it in. But anyway, my trucking company, we started off, my dad, he had a heart attack and was down a while, and he tried to get me and my brother to take over the garage. Well, at the time, I didn't want to take over the garage because I had took a job on the side being a gunsmith for a big gun shop that was here in town. So I'm a certified armor. They sent me all the way up to gunsmithing school for Smith & Wesson, and I was for the Georgia State Patrol. I was an armor for them. All the state patrols would bring their gun in, I'd tag it, and I would fix it, whatever it needed. And that's what I did for several years. And during that time, my dad asked if there was a company wanted to buy our garage, and I said, yeah, I don't want to be a mechanic, because by then I was really specialized in carburetor work, but by then fuel injection had come along, and I told my dad, I said, yeah, fuel injection and electronic ignitions replaced all of our old equipment. There's no more points and condensers and coils on the car. There's coil packs now, and they still distributors, but they firing off of fuel injection. So I said, I'm not interested in that kind of work, and I said, I'm going to run the gun shop. Well, I had an opportunity to buy the gun shop, and I didn't take it. That was one of my regrets because of fear. Fear of losing something I didn't have to start with. That was the funny thing. And that's where most people go wrong. They have a fear of taking that first step because they think they're going to lose something. And the something you're going to lose is something you ain't got anyway, you know. And so anyway, my dad got an opportunity to haul custom cars and custom vans, and he bought a semi-truck after he got well, and he was up in his 70s, but anyway, he got well and better, and my dad was a strong man. I mean, I've seen him take a 150-pound block of steel. We used to have one that weighed scale, and he could hold it out in front of him and do like that and put it down, and then go back with his other hand and pick it up and hold it straight out. Not like this. I'm talking about he'd pick it up straight out using his shoulder strength. And he was super strong, World War II veteran, and anyway, so we bought a semi-truck together, and we started hauling them custom cars, and they was paying us well over. Everybody was making like $2 or $3 a mile back then, and fuel was cheap. But we bought an old cheap semi used. In fact, it had a 318 Detroit motor in it that was a banger. It wouldn't hardly pull up a hill, but it had run 150 mile an hour on the straightaway going downhill. But anyway, we run that thing forever, and my CPA had me putting this money into the IRA thing, which I thought I was being cheated or scammed, or I felt like I was throwing money away. But bless my heart, I wasn't. But I didn't know. I was young and wanted the money in my pocket. So anyway, so that was a success. And then later on, we was getting $4 a mile to haul these vans, and all of our drivers, we kept telling them to be quiet about it. All the drivers that was running their mouth, and that's what got us in trouble, was telling all the other truck drivers how much they was paying, and the next thing you know, another company come in there that was only getting $2 a mile and told the company, hey, we'll haul these same vans for you for $2.25 a mile. Well, I can't blame the company for jumping on that, so they cut our throat, as I call it, but the own drivers cut their own throat by running that mouth, telling. That's why when you are in a business and you got a successful business going and you making good money, the best thing to do is no sirree, do not tell a soul what you doing, cause when they asking to find out about exactly how you doing it and what you doing it, they gonna come up and figure out a way. They gonna do it a little bit the same but a little bit cheaper and cut your throat and cut you out. That's just life. That's the way people is. So anyway, when you remember, and we're going to explore a lot of roads in this channel. If you live in the past, you're going to be depressed. So don't live in the past, people. If you live in the future, you're going to be anxious and excited. So be anxious and excited. But now, if you live in the present, you're going to be at peace and focus on peace. So where do you live? Please, live in the future. Live now. What happened years ago and all that, it's water over the dam, it's gone. So don't go there. Stay focused on the future. What about tomorrow? That's where we need to live. Don't matter what your situation is. If you're a young person, I'm going to tell you about me being a young person and then being an older person and then having some crazy jobs that didn't make no sense. But live in the future, and there's things that you don't ever want to talk about and tell anyone. And I got it wrote down because my memory ain't good, because there's a lot that I've been thinking about. But I want you to hear them. First of all, you don't never talk about your personal money, your savings account. Don't talk about that stuff. Don't tell people if you got money or if you broke. If you ain't got a savings account, or you do have one. It ain't none of their business. Don't even go there. Don't talk about it. Alright, number two, and this was a big one for me because I got a real good story on this one. When you going to quit and retire and leave your job, and I did that. I quit and retired and leave your job. But do you know what the number one thing is I did? And you should too. I didn't tell a soul. I walked out that day and I had all my stuff, and I'll tell you where I worked later, and it was a funny job. I was there about 3 or 4 years. I enjoyed it. But when I turned 63 and we had a bad manager, I mean a bad one. They sent him from Las Vegas down here to Georgia, and he missed the show life and the flashing lights. And he let us all know what a sorry place we lived in every day. And what a sorry bunch of folks we was every day. And I let the company know finally what a sorry manager he was, and he ended up getting himself fired. I'm talking about kaput. And he'd been with the company several years, but in big cities. But he come to a little old town like this and run his mouth. But anyway, that was just something that happened, and I'll tell you about it. I put a check on here to explain that. Alright, next thing is power of attorney. Don't give power of attorney to nobody. Sometimes you may need to give somebody power of attorney if you're sick or dying or something like that, but if you're well and in good health and thinking, don't give nobody power of attorney over you or your property or your business, whatever it is. Just don't do it, because they'll take advantage of you. Alright, so next thing is, people you don't like, co-workers, friends and all that, don't tell everybody about it. If you don't like somebody, just keep it quiet and avoid them like they're a plague. If you see them coming towards you down the aisle at Walmart or somewhere, I always turn around and just walk the other way. And if you know they don't like you, don't try to make them like you. You can't make people like you. You got to earn respect. You got to earn friendship, and earn friendship is to earn respect, people. And to earn respect, you got to first learn how to respect others. Okay, health issues or pains and all that, people ask you how you doing, I always just say I'm doing fine. It ain't none of their business if you got a knee ache, and I'm going to tell you about doctoring and medicine later on in these videos. But this is my first one. Tell me how I'm doing. You liking it or you hating on it or what? And that's another thing. People that hate on you, avoid them and don't pay them no attention, because they don't know no better. That's what I'm talking about. And let me tell you, the number, I've done named off 6 here. Number 6 is don't share your passwords to your social media page, your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or whatever it is. Don't share it even if they say they're here to help you, because they're not. They just want to get into your business, I promise you. And never be afraid to try new things. And that's one of the biggest fears I had growing up, was to try new things. But I overcome them fears. I'm 71 years old, and by golly, I am so glad that I did. And also, never give up. If you fail, or you can always start over. If you fail, and I'm going to tell you about my trucking company failure, and then I kind of started over, and it was a huge success, more than I could ever know. So, I'm retired now. I sold it and made money. Okay, never stop learning and never be afraid to try. That's another one. At 71 years old, I am still learning every day. YouTube is one of the greatest things to learn things. It was just a month ago, I can tell you. I got an old backhoe, it's 1968 or 69 model Ford backhoe, industrial, big old backhoe. And I use it. I live on a small farm out here of about 15 acres, and I got it to dig up some tree stumps and push over some trees, clear some land, and move some bushes around. Well, by golly, something shorted out on it, and the whole electrical system went out on it. I'm talking about the alternator quit, the starter quit, the whole 9 yards. All the wires burned up, the wiring harness, in other words, fried. Well, by golly, I called a man about it, and he told me, yeah, I'll come look at it. And he was kind of a grumpy old man in the next county, and it took me a month or 2 to get in touch with him. It was my backhoe was sitting in the field. And he told me, he said, well, he said, I'll come out there Saturday to look at it, but he said, I can tell you one darn thing. He said, when I drive up, if you don't put $200 in my hand, he said, I'm going to leave. I said, what? I said, what's the $200 for fixing it? He said, no, that's for me coming out there. I said, well, you know what? You won't never in your whole life come out to my place. I said, that just killed the deal. Anybody's going to charge me $200 to come out before they even say they can fix my tractor. No. So I went to YouTube. I did. And I typed in how to wire up a tractor from start to finish. And I found about 25 or 30 great videos that showed me, and I wrote it down in a book like this one. I went out there and got my toolbox out, and I used to mechanic, so I'm familiar with tools. But I went out there and I took all the wires off. I took the whole wiring harness and throwed it away. And I went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of wires of different colors so I could write them down in a book, what went to what. And I put the starter wires on. I bought 10 gauge or so stranded wire, I think, or 8 gauge stranded wire for the starter, because it needs a heavy wire. Not the battery wire, but the push button. I went up to the diesel mechanic shop we got here in Cordell that sells diesel parts for trucks. I bought switches for it and a push button starter, and I went out there and it took me 2 days of piddling with it and taking my test light and testing things on it. But in 3 days I was out there running my backhoe and it's working fine. And that's been a while back, and I have had no more problems that you can have. So, next thing I want to say is never give up if you fail. When you fail, usually you learn something. Failure is your strongest way of learning. Like if you fall down, you get up. If you fall down again, you get up. If you fall down again, you maybe ought to get up and hold on to something. But always get up and fight back. Don't just lay there. Because you got to get up and walk away. And like I said, no one has power over you. I want you to remember that. People that make fun of you or people that don't like you and all that, they're going to talk about you behind your back no matter what you do. But don't give them the power. Don't even give them a thought. Don't let them in your mind. Just leave them alone. And all. And times can change for the worse, or times can change for the better. And right now, at the state of the United States and all that, people have changed. People ain't the same as they were when I was growing up. People ain't as friendly as they are, but the people are more arrogant and up in the air about what they got. Well, what they got, it don't make a hill of beans, because when we die, we ain't going to take nothing with us except a casket or whatever they put in there. But you ain't going to take your cars, your wealth, and all that, so don't worry about it. Never worry about what other people think about you. Worry about what you think about you. And if you're thinking bad about yourself right now, you need to stop it and think to yourself, hey, I can do better and I will learn. And get out there and struggle to learn. You got a bad job. Why you got that bad job? You need to be looking for a better job. Don't take one job. I've had many jobs, and I'm going to tell you about them. Some of them was bad, and some of them was good. Some of them that was bad turned out to be good. And some of them that I left come back to me begging me to come back, but I didn't because they was bad, and I knew they wasn't going to change to get better and all that. Your friends, you can earn friends through trust and respect. Now, some of you got fake friends. All your friends on Facebook ain't your friends. They call it the friends list, but trust me, they're not your friends. They just friends on Facebook, and you don't want to tell them no personal business about your life. But now your true friends is one that will come over and knock on your door, or you go over there and knock on the door, or they invite you, just like me. I'm lucky. I live out in the country on a dead-end road with a little small subdivision in front of my farm. All my friends that lives right by me, every one of them called me up this Thanksgiving and invited me to dinner, and I went to one of them, and Mama didn't want to go. She's 90-year-old, fixing to be 100 next week. So they sent her a big old plate of turkey and dressing and ham and gravy and green beans and black-eyed peas and cranberry sauce and all that. But it takes years to learn. And that's the key to everything, folks. The older we get, the better we see, and the better we learn. We see a scam coming from 100 miles off now, when before we've been scammed. I've been scammed, you've been scammed. If you hadn't, your day's coming, I promise you. Or you bought things that you wish you never bought. And that's another thing. Old folks keep stuff, and we keep too much. And I'm fixing to start thinning out the herd on some of my equipment here, guitars. My God, I'll do a video of it, how many guitars I got, because I don't know. I got so many I can't count it. I got 2 pianos here, and I got 1 synthesizer over here. Now, I'm probably going to keep them, but I don't need them, and all. But get out like we did growing up. They say that social media is going out with friends and all, but social media is not friends. I tell you what, I think what is happening to America is the internet and the social media stuff is actually destroying us, because we got all this news media on now that the politicians are wanting us to fight against each other, the Republicans against the Democrats against the independents, the Republicans against the independents, and all that. But has the government changed to help us in any way? No. And will it ever? No. Not in my lifetime, I don't think. Everywhere you go, even today, I went down to, we got a Dollar General that's 3 miles or 4 maybe from my house. Went down there, and they was a long line, believe it or not, which was unusual in that Dollar General, because we way out here in the country in the middle of nowhere, but they was probably 5 people ahead of me. And I was looking at them. All 5 of them were sitting there looking at their cell phone and punching buttons. I reckon they texted. Why would you want to stay all day long texting a person when I would rather pick up the phone, dial their number, and call and talk to them? Another thing that gets on my nerves, and I had this to happen just the other day to a fella that I was helping him. And he called me telling me he needed help. And before I could ask him what kind of help he needed, he said to me, well, I got another phone call coming in that I've got to take. Click, and he hung up on me. Oh, and before he did, he said, call me. I'm not going to call him. He called me. I'm not calling him back. If he needed help, he would call me back. So, you know, that right there is something I just think is crazy. Now, I tell you something else is crazy. You try to get help and reach out to anybody today on the telephone. My insurance company, I'm on Medicare. I tried to call them the other day because I got a bill or something, and I got a hold of a guy after listening and pushing 1 for English and all that, run around, and he couldn't even speak English. I'm like, I pushed 1 for English, fella. And he was an Indian, and no. And I just hung up. I'm like, well, I ain't going to talk to him because I can't understand a word he said. I called the doctor's office for my mama the other day, and they went through a message that said, the first thing they said was push 1 for English, and I did. The second message said, if this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. As we not taking emergency call 911. And I'm like, this, if it was an emergency, I would have done call 911 to start with. They think we stupid. That's where they playing us. They downplaying us. And then I called the bank the other day. Actually, I went down there to cash a check for $5 from my mama. That was an insurance dividend check that we didn't even expect, but it was a $5 dividend check. And did you know I stood in that bank nearly over an hour because I had to give them all the information on Mama's account. They couldn't find it, and I'm on the account, so it shouldn't have been that much harder. I pulled out my card, our credit card from the bank, or debit card. They looked it up. They finally found it. And then, of all things, they had to take a picture of me, and I had to sign. My mama done signed the check. Then I had to sign the check, and they had to take a picture of me for a photo ID of who I was. And the bad thing is, the girl that was doing all this, and she apologized, but she was a good friend of mine. We used to go out to her house, me and my wife. My wife just passed away in October, and that's another story. She had Alzheimer's, and I'll tell you about living with Alzheimer's people too. It's a bad, bad thing, folks. You don't want to go through it. But this girl that knowed me all my life, the bank, it wasn't her doing it. She said the bank was making her do that. And then when I got home, later that night, her husband called me, which was also a good friend of mine, and they apologized for all the crazy stuff that's going on at the bank and told me more things that was going on in the bank than I ever believed. I mean, they taking people's accounts away from them at the bank. And the bank's watching you, everybody in the small government's watching. But anyway, I just want to welcome, and I've rambled on too much, I just want to welcome you, and I'm going to keep this book because I can't remember nothing no more. But the name of this channel is Old Folks and What We Know, and I'll be interviewing a lot of old folks and what we know. If there's a question or anything you guys out there or you folks out there want to ask, go ahead and ask. I'm a South Georgia boy. I know I talk funny to most people, but I'm an honest person. I'm to be trusted, and I want to give y'all all the love and the information I can about being 71-year-old. I'm retired now and drawing Social Security, but that don't mean I've sat down on my butt and stopped working. No, sir. I do a lot of things. I do a lot of things for my health, and I'll go over all that. Mama's 100-year-old. She's doing the same thing for her health, and some of it involves homemade remedies like honey, turmeric, and ginger, and honey and something else. I got it wrote down. I got a recipe book. In fact, I got a book called Back to Eden, and it gives you all these home recipes about how to clear out your lungs, your mind, keep your mind sharp and all that. And I wish my wife that passed away with Alzheimer's would have took some of our homemade remedies, but she just wouldn't do it and all. But, you know, I don't want to force nothing on nobody that they don't want to do. And she didn't know. She honestly didn't know she was sick. She didn't know she had Alzheimer's. And that's the way Alzheimer's work. You know, and it's a lot of times when people are stupid. They don't know they're stupid, but other people do. And people that's dead don't know they're dead, but other people do. But sometimes people that's stupid wake up and they realize they was doing stupid things and they change for the better. And that's what I want to talk about, is people can change for the better and make this world a better place. Let's get rid of all this, fake news and politics. Let's get rid of all this hatred. Let's get rid of all the racists. That's one thing I was taught. We growed up in that garage. We had no such thing as racist. We had black people working for us all the time, old men and young men. I remember one of the greatest old black person. His wife was a school teacher, and he invited me to their house a couple of times to eat supper. I went. We had a great time. We sat around. We drank coffee and eat collards and mustard greens and fatback and bacon and laughed, drank sweet tea. And his wife was a wonderful cook, but she was a teacher, very smart lady. But you know what? We didn't never hear of racists. We didn't think of nobody as being different. They was just a different color, but they wasn't different people. They went to church like we did. They wore clothes like we did. They worked like we did. And the old black man, he was the smartest mechanic you ever saw in your life. He couldn't even write his name hardly. He could write his name, and that was it. His wife learned it. But Other than that, you could tell him to take a motor apart and rebuild it. He could do it blindfolded, and it wouldn't take him long. And he had his own tools. He cleaned them up. And we didn't think about races. It just wasn't in the subject back then. I remember I was in the 7th grade before the first black guy I ever seen in my life come to our white school. And a lot of the white folks around there, they was like, oh no. And the guy come and he walked down the aisle and he looked over at me and he said, DJ. I said, well, hey, sit down, right here's an empty desk. And he sat beside me. Well, guess what? His daddy worked at the cotton gin that we worked on, the trailers and the trucks. I knowed him. I knowed his name. James, I believe it was. But I said, James. He said, I'm scared. I said, well, you hang out with me today and your fear be gone. I said, ain't nobody in here gonna hurt you. They curious and they don't understand. And he said, well, I don't really want to be here. I said, I know you don't. I said, but you're here and let's make the best of it. That's what happened. Okay, well anyway, I'm going to cut it off there. I think the video might have got too long, but there's going to be a lot of episodes coming on old folks and what we know. And I promise you, there's a lot that we know that y'all don't know about. And things that's happened over the years that need to be told. And the only place you can find out things from back, from like my mama in 1920 to here, is to keep up with our videos. So go ahead and subscribe, hit like, post a comment. And I tell you, when Mama was talking, boy, you can't believe the things. One of her greatest life's achievements, she said, was when they got, and believe it or not, you're going to laugh, indoor plumbing. Water running in the house and a bathroom in the house, because she growed up on a farm in northern Alabama up at Fort Payne, and it was cold in the winter, and them 3 girls, she got 3 sisters and her mama and my granddaddy, and he was a worker. I knowed him up until I was probably 18, but he died when he was in his 80s. But anyway, running water and not having to go out to an outhouse no more and getting a real toilet in the house that flushed. That was the greatest achievement of her life. She said before that they actually had a radio and could pick up the Grand Ole Opry, but she said the most exciting day was when the toilet come in and a real bathtub without having to go out in the backyard, heat water on your stove, and take a bath outside. Okay, so anyway, part 1, I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope you're getting something out of this. And this was about the only room that I had that was quiet and good. This is my music room. Welcome to the music room of DJ. And so y'all go ahead and keep watching and let me know how often. That's another thing. I'm new at this, so I don't know. Do we do a video once a week or twice a week? I don't know. So y'all tell me, how often do you want to see them? All right? I thank you and God bless you, and have a great week, everybody.